This is Joe's Corner 76. I'll be commenting on the human condition. In order to be involved, we need to be engaged. Canada is at the crossroads. Trudeau seems to be getting ready to call a fall election for September. Polls indicate no one wants an election now, but he feels he has a chance at a majority. He has been crisscrossing the country with his liberal cult, dispensing your tax money on a lot of proposed projects. This is wrong, since he has started his pre-election campaign using taxpayers' money, but since an election has not been called, all of the other federal parties are prohibited from spending on election campaigning until an election is called. This is just another ploy Trudeau is using, just like his closing of Parliament, to escape the investigation of the WE scandal. Now is the time for all Canadians to open their eyes and truly ask themselves if they want Trudeau to gain a majority or even a minority government where he can rule with NDP support. Will Canadians realize that a vote for the NDP is in reality a vote for the Liberals? We have to look at Trudeau, his history, and lack of qualifications to lead us. How did Trudeau become Liberal Party leader in the first place? Were his qualifications so sterling that the Liberals had no choice but to anoint him? Prior to 2015, the Liberals only had 36 members in Parliament. They were nowhere. Who would lead them out of this wilderness? There was no outstanding candidate, so they chose Trudeau. He had the name, and maybe his father's magic would rub off. As usual, after party has been in power for a while, as the Conservatives were, people wanted a change. So Sunny Days Trudeau got elected with a majority. Then he got a minority. With this election, we have to decide what path Canada takes. Trudeau played with our lives during the COVID pandemic, and we suffered more than we had to if he had acted earlier on sound advice as opposed to the politically correct approach he used. We got our vaccines later than we should have, yet Trudeau is banking on the number of people vaccinated now, the fact it's summer, and his hope we have short term memories of the dark days of COVID. Don't let him get away with this. Remember very carefully the scandals he was involved in, the ethics charges, and the cover up tactics he used to hide them. Most Canadians want transparency in government. Do you believe the Liberals will give you this? Are you tired of being ruled by cancel culture, where guilt or innocence is not determined by the courts, but by pressure groups and the mass media exposure they get, and the cowardly politicians who give them credibility? Woke culture, what does this mean to you? It seems to me that you have to buy into every theory put forth by fringe groups, politically correct leftists, and progressives who jump on any trendy bandwagon. Are you tired of being called racist, fascist, or bigoted because you don't agree with the woke crowd? They rely on the silent majority to say nothing. Freedom of expression is being eroded every day. Universities were and should be places where all opinions have a forum to express their point of view. They are now run by administrators who don't have the guts to stand up to small pressure groups. A lot of these universities are publicly funded, and the gutless politicians should cut their funding until freedom of expression is reinstated. We all need to look at Bill C-10 that will determine what we can watch and post on media. Do you want government servants to tell you what to watch? Bill C-10 is now stalled in the Senate, but that doesn't kill it. Bill C-36 will determine what constitutes hate crimes. Anyone can claim you posted something they consider hateful, and you will be investigated. You will have to pay for your legal defense, but your accuser will not be affected. This bill wants to change the Charter of Rights and Freedoms to match the bill's definition of hatred. They want it amended to match the government's definition of online hate speech. Do you want your fate decided by government bureaucrats to decide your freedom? This type of action is a first step that a socialist or fascist government takes to remove freedom. Reject this. Vote for change. National unity should always be a major concern of the federal government, and they should act to prosper a sense of national unity. Trudeau's treatment of the West has fostered separation from Canada issues. The Trudeau Liberals have done this. He's not spoken out when Quebec announces it a separate nation. In all fairness, neither did the other parties, but Trudeau is PM. He will jump at any chance to shout about anti-Islamophobia, but he will not challenge the Quebec's government banning of religious headwear. He has selective targets for discrimination. Until recently, he never mentioned anti-Semitic attacks. Jews are the targets of hate crimes more than any other group. He has not condemned the targeting of Christian churches. Don't we want all Canadians treated equally? Trudeau is for strong government participation in the economy with more government intervention. This smacks of socialism. Socialism doesn't work. Look at Cuba, Russia, and Venezuela. They are economic basket cases. Free enterprise and capitalism make a country prosper, not the killing of individual initiative. Trudeau is trying to turn Canada into a nanny state where the government supplies everything. This can't be sustained because the cost is overwhelming. The government doesn't produce wealth, it only takes it. So once the kitty is empty, their only resource is to borrow and print more money. Based on their proposed course, Canada will become an economic basket case. Canada needs a national energy policy that guarantees our energy security. We have the resources to be energy self-sufficient, but not the political will with this present government. Why are we subject to the whims of the governor of Wisconsin, who wants to close Line 5? It's delayed by now, but not dead. Why should we be subject to foreign powers over our energy needs? Why are we still importing dirty oil from overseas? Canada produces some of the cleanest energy in the world. Why not build the pipelines to carry it across Canada for domestic use and for distribution to overseas customers? Fossil fuels are here until 2040 and perhaps 2060. We should be using our natural resources. We've had enough environmental studies. The majority of Indigenous people want the benefits of the pipeline. Let's build them. We should be exporting natural gas, which releases half of the carbon that coal does. The economic benefits to fund our health and social programs, as well as to pay down our deficit, would be enormous. It would help improve our employment position throughout the country with the spin-off of other industries. Let's be truthful about carbon emissions. Canada produces about 1.6% of the total carbon emissions. Let's be factual. China emits more greenhouse gases than the entire developed world combined, according to a new report. China emitted 27% of the world's greenhouse gases in 2019. The US was second with 11%, while India was at 6.6%. Go after the real culprits. We have to reduce our emissions, but there is no way we can meet the goals Trudeau and other parties set for us. We can't close our entire transportation, electricity, and agriculture sector, which is what is needed to meet these goals. It's great to talk about green energy, but it has been shown time and time again that this would not meet our energy needs for the present and near future. We need to acknowledge that hydro and nuclear power are the way to achieve clean energy. Natural gas will be a backup power source. Renewable energy can be achieved through industry in conjunction with government working together, showing everybody that through research and switch over to reliable green energy, it's profitable. This will hasten its development. Electric cars will not immediately replace the combustion engine, since we would have to rebuild the entire electrical grid to handle their power needs. Reject the concept of the Great Reset. Reject the globalist policies and state we want a nation state that will serve and protect the interests of Canadians. Trudeau says there is no such thing as a Canadian identity. Tell him we reject this. Canada has a culture and freedom that is the envy of the world. That's why so many people come here to live and prosper with the freedom to speak their minds without fear, practice their faith, and the right to change the government by a vote. If you want the Canada we have, vote for change. I want a government that does not use words like systemic racism and genocide. We have our problems, and the great thing about Canadians is we acknowledge them and we're willing to change. I don't want a government that agrees with a vocal leftist minority that wants to rewrite our history. We need to make sure that we present the real history, good and bad. Canada is still one of the greatest countries in the world. We need a government that stands up to dictatorships like China. Canadians do not admire repression. Trudeau, speak up and tell China to stop oppressing our citizens in Canada who are of Chinese origin and the minorities in their country. Say no to Huawei. Scrap all research programs we have with the Chinese government and instruct our universities to sever any research arrangements they have with them. Stand with our allies, not our enemies. We need a plan in place to handle future pandemics that uses the information developed by our intelligence services so we are in the forefront of any future pandemic, and there will be one. We need in Canada facilities to produce vaccines for Canadians. Trudeau, listen to the majority of Canadians who want immigration slowed down until we have absorbed all the newcomers so far. We will then be in a better position to integrate future immigrants into the mainstream. My fellow Canadians, we are at the crossroads. What you decide is where our country goes. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Joe's Corner 76. You can hear me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and YouTube at Joe's Corner 76.